So you mentioned, Marcello, that Vincenzo will be defending with the same deck from last year, and here we are with tier limits getting to go first, and it's a whole different deck now almost, right? You have to play so many like different engines. He's playing some heroes in there to try and facilitate a Beatrice lines to send and perform a fusion summon. And of course, you know, when you lose so much consistency over a whole year with the Forbidden Limitless and the multiple iterations of that on tier limit, that is a very good start.
Consistency.
Yeah, clearly not.
Both of these cards are at 1, but that doesn't matter to Vincenzo. When you've drawn them, you've drawn them.
I think he'll be very happy to see Sharon plus Kelbeck, probably the best way to start off this tournament.
I think Filippo's just like, I thought this was, you know, 2023, but here you are. This looks like a 2022 opening.
Oh, wow, and we're also hitting a shuffler there. That's really strong. So the Hell Shadow fusion resolves as Chain Link 2, milling equal to the number of different attributes you control, and then, of course, Kelbeck hitting 5 more and getting that all-important King of the Swamp into the graveyard because, of course, there's no tier limit. Kid Kalos.
Yeah, we got a chance to interview Vincenzo, and as you could tell, he's playing a full gas deck with only, you know, pretty much talent as his non-engine, and the rest of the deck is just straight up cards that make sense because he wants to prioritize, you know, sending cards off the top of his deck, and he really wants to hit those chain blocks as well in a field in which you expect Unchained to be very popular. When you face, you know, King Caesar, you really want to chain block the card by, you know, activating something else. And yeah, look at this. It's already impressive stuff by the Italian, yeah?
I love the nice little bonus that when you mill cards from your opponent's deck, that you get to see what they're playing kind of for free.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and there's now going to be no surprises. You can pretty much identify what Filippo's playing as well.
It just feels like classic tier limit at this point, you know? We've got the Sharon with the huge mills. We've got another Shuffler into the graveyard with the Scream and the Rhino Heart sending. And of course, the Shufflers are really good in this matchup because of the ability to put things like, as you can see here, the Goddess of the Third Eye that Filippo's running in the Chimera strategy, most notably to try and go for Dragoon.
Yeah, there's a lot of interaction with the graveyard, with the illusions. A lot of them want to be in the graveyard to use their effects. You can summon illusions from the graveyard with the Big Wing Baphomet. So yeah, having those shufflers is really helpful.
Yeah, and now obviously we get to go for a fusion summon. A lot of different options. As you mentioned, he's playing heroes in his decks, and it seems like the deck focuses a lot around Beatrice, one of your go-to cards, right, Nadir? So.
Yeah, no, beautiful to see that Beatrice is still being played. We've got Diviner of the Herald as our primary normal summon outside of Rhino Heart in this list, but of course not needing that in this line here. Oh, and there's the Denier being sent back from the hand.
What does that make?
I think it's the Dark hero, yeah, the Despondent.
Oh, he's going straight for that.
Yeah.
Beatrice, maybe.
Dangerous, sorry.
Yeah, the Dangerous, which can send the Malicious from the deck. And that gives you straight up access to Beatrice, yeah? So that's pretty good.
Okay, discards the Shaddoll Beast, but don't get too excited because it is a cost, and the Shaddolls do not trigger from that. But yep, there's Malicious being banished, especially another Malicious. Yeah, no, it's really cool to see here. This is probably, and it's important to pace yourself a little bit, I think, when you talk about tier limit, because while it is very exciting to watch like this, there are sometimes, I guess, hands where you don't open Sharon Kelbeck, right?
Honestly, I'm just so, it kind of makes me happy. Just some of the most iconic and favorite archetypes of Yu-Gi-Oh players throughout its history have been these dark effects which resolve in the graveyard, like Shaddolls, like Destiny Heroes, and like tier limits, and we're seeing all of them in one deck.
We got a Guido.
Yeah, I was thinking he was gonna go for a tier limit. No, another 5 off the top.
Why would you send a tier limit when you can send this, which sends a tier limit and other stuff?
Fair enough.
It's more exciting to see what's in the box here as we check out the top 5 cards of our deck here, as well as milling the opponent out.
Let's see if Vincenzo, he does.
Oh,
so yeah,
obviously. You always do.
It's early.
Yeah, that's wow, so strong. Even it's the Diviner, which is amazing because you can get it back potentially later on. So wow.
Has he hasn't used tier limits cash tier yet, has he either? So that's an extra couple of mils.
Yeah, and it's, as you mentioned, sending 10 cards off the top of your opponent deck just give you so much information, even for game 2, if anything. So
it doesn't. Does it benefit Filippo a lot? He's got a few. I didn't quite catch what it was. I was too excited watching what Vincenzo was milling. I can see the Chimera Fusion, which is a card that can be added back, but only once you've already got fusion in rotation, so that means you do need to fusion summon first. So you're going to need to find a second copy of that before you can start using it anyway.
So he might go, for Rule Callus. Let's see what he wants to do, because obviously
it just opens up so many options for you when you play King of the Swan. And you know, Rule Callus is typically what you go into. Pretty easy to summon, but without Kick Callus, you know, you do have to play these substitution effects. But also, he does have access to Grapha.
It feels very difficult to do anything without King of the Swamp almost now, with Kick Callus being forbidden. You can't summon Rule Callus anymore without King of the Swamp or some other substitution effect.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to take these like strange lines where you like go into like a big like Kaleido Heart turn 1, typically know what you see, and then you can use the field spell to destroy your Kaleido Heart, brings itself back, sends another material. So there's a whole bunch of like different options available to you that sort of play around the removal of Kick Callus. And we go for a rank 4 here, Redoer. Most important effect of Redoer is that it detaches for effect, not for cost, like a lot of typical Xyz monsters. And that means when you send a monster by effect, the Shirin underneath it does get to fuse again on your opponent's turn. And I think there's another King of the Swamp still in the graveyard.
Yeah, so we think that will either be a Grapha or a Kaleido Heart.
Yeah.
But he picks up a monster, unfortunately, for Vincenzo, so not adding an additional effect to the Redoer. And let's see if Filippo is able to actually break this field. Yeah.
Should be a challenge. I was one of the cards that comes to my mind when you want to break fields is Super Polymerization, because we mentioned it's like a fusion versus fusion, so Super Polymerization is probably going to be really handy, but I don't know if it's featuring in either of the players' deck lists.
I do see a Prosperity, which is always nice to, you know, dig for something, but
yeah, there's good answers in the main deck that Filippo has, kind of being prepared for, I suppose, maybe the Pearly matchup. We see a lot of books in the main deck here, so perhaps potentially it could be worth trying to pick up a book here to try and force out a lot of these interactions of Beatrice and Rule Callus. Rule Callus especially negating the effect to special summon, which means that if we go for a Branded Fusion or a Chimera Fusion, Rule Callus will be able to prevent that. So we're going to start off here with a Kotal. This is the really consistent part of the Chimera engine. It's typically you wouldn't really think of fusion decks as, you know, a mechanic that really generates a lot of advantage, but every single one of these Chimera cards like floats as a material, gets you lots of pluses, and it's a really good little engine that people have been incorporating with the branded.
It looks like though Filippo's deck is much more dedicated to the Chimera engine.
Yeah, you usually just play like Branded Fusion, and then it is just a Chimera deck, really.
Yeah. I do worry sometimes this deck maybe doesn't have the same kind of recursive power. It's like really consistent and really explosive, but maybe in a sort of grind game, which, I mean, it's not really a grind game, I guess, but, you know, when you start comparing what the decks can do as a whole rather than just with their first 5 cards, the Tillaments might have an advantage.
Yeah, it's just a versatile archetype, isn't it? You've got like power, you've got defensive abilities, and one of the cool things as well about Tearlament is that it doesn't really put up, you know, a typical sort of negate style field. You have a lot of like different interactions. So here you can see he's using the Chimera Fusion after the Sulik negating the Gazelle, and now Rule Callus, just can negate the Chimera Fusion.
Is it really Tearlament if you're not at least Chainlink 4? That's the question.
for now he's also holding, I guess he could use the Scream afterwards as well, trying to send, you know, another name off the top of his deck. Let's see.
I mean, Scream would have had to have been triggered on the normal summon, right?
Do you like that we're not using Prosperity first? I feel like if you have answers in your deck like Eclipse, maybe it's worth trying to like fish that out before you commit.
We just... Oh, the Scream's being sent for
the Rule Callus, and then
You're gonna have to remind me. So Saliak can send a Tearlament. It has to
any
send
monster.
Any monster.
Yeah,
okay.
any monster.
And Rule Callus
can send any Tearlament.
Okay.
Card. Yeah. But yeah, now the Rule Callus is summoned back and plays back to Filippo, who needs to probably activate this Prosperity. But I think he might also be building the Branded Fusion. Let's see.
It looks like Vincenzo's playing with his graveyard a bit, so maybe he's got an effect that he wants to activate.
Yeah, he could use one of the shufflers. He has the Beatrice and the Redoer still, so he has a lot of options. This is not done. Also, obviously, when you start things off with the Perle Rhino, you have even an additional interruption in the form of the field spell. So.
Yeah, I mean, it just synergizes so well with itself. The ability to fuse with the graveyard, it's almost like a free resource when you have that second hand and the Perla Rhino is great synergy because as you return a card from your deck, from your grave to your deck, you get to destroy a card. So lots of varied disruption in this deck. You have effect negates, you have special summon negates, and there's that graph I mentioned here.
Yep. He's destroying his own.
Yeah, so he can pick up a Havinous so that he can trigger it in response to. Oh, he's going to go for Cash Tier.
Yeah, because basically you need a card in hand to trigger the Grafa.
I see. Yeah, I didn't see his hand was empty, but that makes a lot of sense.
No, very well played by Vincenzo. I mean,
has he not got a Tailment and like a Tailment fusion effect to search rather than the Cash? I mean, maybe there's nothing he wants to fuse into anymore.
Well, they're all limited to 1.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were all.
He might have milled himself out there, but yeah, as long as you have a name or any card to discard off the Grafa.
For sure.
It's a really good disruption here because it makes it so that your opponent's effect becomes discard a card that your opponent controls, and then when the Cash Tier goes to the graveyard, you can mill 2 more.
Yeah, it's such an iconic like Dark World thing that make your opponent, like, because they all get bonus effects if they're discarded by your opponent, so you have to make your opponent discard cards from your hand. It's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, not playing Silva here. That would be a little overboard. But yeah, it looks like the Prosperity is going to banish 6 for cost, and I think we're deciding whether or not to negate that on Vincenzo's side.
Do you negate this if you're Vincenzo?
Usually, but now...
Oh, lets it resolve. This is what I was worried about. You see, you got the Book of Eclipse off the top here. You know, that I think if we just led with the Prosperity...
Yeah, I totally agree with you,
Yeah.
Because that would have actually been quite nice.
Yeah, it would have turned off a lot of the interruptions from Vincenzo, for sure.
We've got the Mirror Sword Knight in the pickup here, which is one of the best starters for this deck, but you know we've already committed to our normal summon. It just kind of opens up a lot of options for you when you have Prosperity. It's such a good card, being able to remove cards from your extra deck that, you know, 15 extra deck cards, kind of tight these days, but in different scenarios, like if you're going second, you're not going to use like a lot of those cards automatically, and then vice versa when you go first. So it doesn't really feel like it sacrifices too much. As long as your deck doesn't really rely on drawing, it's been very staple recently, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, we're seeing. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Pot of Prosperity was, you know, in one of the most popular cards this weekend. Maybe after Ash Blossom or something.
Yeah. So he's debating on taking that second Chimera fusion to try and actually get that engine rolling with all those illusion fusion monsters.
Is Grafa, can it negate quick play spells, or is it just normal spells?
I think it just negates anything, right? Let's bring that up.
No, it's just normal spell and
just
traps.
normal
spells.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he will be able to sneak through his Chimera fusion.
So yeah, using both of the Gazelle and Baphomet here, they all have graveyard effects associated to them when you use them as materials, and that Chimera fusion can actually be added back to the hand as well. When you resolve this chain here, you can just try and do it again and try and maybe go for some sort of Chimera. And of course, in the end phase, you activate the effect to discard a card from your opponent's hand, but I don't know if you really want to be discarding Cash Tier.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, I think you may as well activate it, because
it only mills 2, right?
Yeah,
what can go wrong?
Probably better that it's in the graveyard and gets its mill than is on the field. Yeah. And it's probably going to be discarded for Grafa at some point anyway.
So really important interaction here. You know, as we saw, we milled that Medora at the start of the turn, so Vincenzo's being able to put back the Kotils, which has a graveyard effect of protecting your cards from being targeted. And by putting these back here, we can further interact with this Beatrice if we have anything left to send, which Vincenzo has still been holding on to. So there's one more disruption still in the tank.
And the Grafa itself.
Yeah, of course, the Grafa still hasn't been used either.
Did Filippo mill a Mirror Sword Knight? Or not? Maybe not.
Maybe
no.
not.
Yeah, it probably would have been targeted by Vincenzo if that was the case.
We're actually sending back the Kelbeck, so maybe this Beatrice again feeling lucky, you know?
What a hero, you know, just mill 5,
Exactly.
mill 5. He knows he's on the feature. Maybe if he was just not on feature, he'd just be like, oh, I'll just send it to Tillman. But for the viewers at home,
why not? Why not? And yeah, we do get to the sword. And yeah, let's see if he's gonna send this Kelbeck.
He's gotta do it. He's gotta do it.
He might do it.
Come on, Vincenzo.
Come on.
Doesn't want to check what's in the box here. He's being very safe and going directly for a few for a tier name, it looks like.
Okay,
Yep, there's the Havinous.
Makes sense. He already played it, you know, kind of more risky in turn 1, so now he doesn't want to risk it anymore. It's this last interruption, I guess.
Yeah, presumably going to go for the last big fusion in his extra deck, being the Kaleido Heart.
Yeah, he's fanning through that Rhino and making Kaleido Heart one of the strongest of the deck. It's a return back into the extra. We can spin the fusion here.
Well, he's thinking about it. He's got the Beast, which could summon a Winder if he's running Winder. I don't know if he is.
Most likely, I guess.
He wants the Kaleido Heart.
Yeah, he would Kaleido Heart.
Yeah, he was actually fanning through 3 different options there, because if he'd sent back the Destiny Hero Dangerous, that could have been...
He's actually not playing
Winder,
Winder, actually. Just
really?
looking at this extra.
I'm wondering why you have the Beast in your deck if you're not playing Winder. That seems kind of... Oh, I think it's for his side deck, actually. So you can use Shadow Fusion. Okay.
Yeah, there's a Shadow Fusion, yeah, as you mentioned. We'll talk about the side deck in a bit. There's a lot of there's a lot of interesting cards in Vincenzo's side here. And another shuffler being used. Here's the Keldo.
I like Filippo remembering Aliber. It sounds like such an easy thing when you say it, but I feel like there's often so many things going on with branded cards that Aliber is just often left in the graveyard saying, why don't you bring me back, please? You know, like
Which actually, I think makes you wonder whether Vincenzo should have sent that back instead of the Kelbeck, I guess.
Yeah.
And this way he could have kept his other shuffler in the graveyard, I guess. But
ooh.
We do see the branded, but obviously it's gonna send 2 more cards with his own. Okay, 2 King of
that
the
well-known branded fusion spell that discards a card from your opponent's hand.
Oh, and that's about it.
Scoops it up.
Vincenzo takes game 1. Well, what a great way to start things off here with Vincenzo, showing us that the deck is still as valid as a year ago, we could say. And wow,
it was just like a bit of a time capsule, that wasn't it?
Sure.
We were just seeing, you know, the winner playing the same deck again, and it looked beautiful.
It's always exciting to see what's in the box when you hit those Agitos and Kelbecks. But again, it's a long tournament, a lot of rounds to play, and sometimes you can, you know, you see a deck like Tearlament pop off like that, looks really flashy, but can you do that for a whole tournament? Will, you know, that's sort of the big worry with this kind of glass cannon style deck, right?
Yeah. We'll find out whether that's the case. On the other end of the spectrum, we could argue whether Filippo should have led with the Prosperity to, you know, get the Book of Eclipse. Maybe it would have changed the game, but regardless, now they are gonna pretty much take a look at their side decks, and we can assume it's Filippo going first, trying to set up his Chimera combos. What do you guys think he might bring in for this matchup?
It looks like he's playing quite a hand trap heavy sort of deck here, and I don't know if I'd really say a lot of these cards are particularly amazing against Tearlament.
I was going to say, do you think you would have had a side deck plan for Tearlament going into this event? It's not really a deck that's been on everyone's radar. Like, it seems to be, I think a lot of players really love the deck, so as soon as their first opportunity to play it now, they're going for it. But it wasn't a deck that was popular before this event.
Fair enough. At the same time, I feel like Dragon Link, which is a popular deck, has you know, some similarities with it. So maybe just thinking of Bestials, for example, they could be there for that matchup or for the mirror match in the case of Branded, and they've always been really good against tier. So we can assume
it's a good call because there are some Bestials in the side deck.
Okay.
The most important part of his side deck, I'd say, is the Bestials. Redrew his Worm. Quick effect when your opponent controls a monster, banish a light and dark, and anytime you activate a Tearlament to fuse in the graveyard, well, it acts as a body and a DD Crow all in one. So very powerful against Tearlament. But, you know, going back to what you said about, you know, do you have a side deck plan for tier? I feel like noticing that Arise Heart came off the list, and, you know, if you follow the OCG at all, you see, like, through multiple different Forbidden Limited lists and iterations, Tearlament has been around, and I think it's worth respecting in this tournament.
Honestly, I'm looking at Filippo's deck, and I think his side deck looks very geared towards the times he's going second. So maybe he's just so confident in his deck's ability going first that he's not siding in. You know, so oftentimes you see players side decks, and maybe they've got, you know, if I go first against this deck, I'll side in this very powerful card against this deck like Anti-Spell, Fragrance, Dimensional Barrier, and so on. But he hasn't opted to run any of those cards, so maybe he's just so confident in his deck going first, that he doesn't need a specific plan for Tielemans when he's going first.
Yeah, makes sense. But for Vincenzo, as you mentioned already, he is not playing the Shadow Winda. And you did mention, though, that he's playing Shadow Fusions. And there is a reason for it, because there is another fusion, which is the Shikinaga.
There's another Shadow Fusion?
Yeah, you know?
I didn't know this.
I don't think we played it back in the day. It requires nerf monsters. And do you know what's Earth in his deck?
Oh, I don't know. What could be Earth?
Yeah, let's find out. I say our player seems to be ready, so let's jump back into game 2.
All right, so Filippo gets to start this one off here, and it's looking like a 2-card combo that you really want to see. It's the Mirror Knight and the Branded Fusion, so we should be able to see the full start here. That's an Ash Blossom, but I don't know if you're too worried about that, because you do have your Chimera engine, which generates a lot of advantage in and of itself. Although, it must be said, Ash Blossom is extremely powerful against Branded Fusion.
Yeah, I really like the new addition of the Chimera cards, because beforehand, a lot of people's criticism of the Branded deck was, well, if you activate Branded Fusion and you get Ash Blossom, it kind of sucks. But now you've got 2 really powerful effects that both demand your opponent has an Ash Blossom, and if you have both, they can't Ash Blossom both, and you can only use 1 per turn, so...
Yeah, it's Chimera Fusion acting as a decent replacement of sorts as we activate it here. Fuse away the Beast King Gazelle and the Baphomet from the hand, going into that Illusion monster here, activating all 3 in the chain. Loop a card out your opponent's hand, looping Tielemans into the grave.
Having said that, like, there's nothing you can fuse, right?
Yeah.
At the moment. It's quite funny now, 2 for 2, Branded Fusion has just discarded a card from Vincenzo's hand. That's all it does so far today.
All right, yeah, so the Chimera Fusion could be added back as well after we've resolved this chain here, getting some advantage as well. Probably going to get the Kotal to the hand as well for follow-up. And the Chimera Fusion can be set as it's a quick play spell. And it means that you can fuse on your opponent's turn. And typically your disruption in this deck is something like the Guardian Chimera. But it's not the greatest disruption against Tielemans with so many graveyard effects. Typically against, you know, other decks that require having some sort of a field presence, it's quite decent. But in a meta with Unchained, which gets destroyed, and you know, here in this matchup with Tielemans, I wouldn't really say it's super favored.
Yeah, there's also the Mirror Sword Knight itself, which is a nice monster negation. I mean, if you're Filippo here, you've got to be pretty happy, right? Because Vincenzo's already lost the Ash Blossom. He's going to lose a further card from his hand, and you've got kind of everything you want. The branded, the Chimera combo is very compact. It's only 1 card, but it's...
Oh, wow!
Oh, that shouldn't be allowed.
Mali, Havness. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Do you think he'll fuse here? The dangerous?
Yeah, he's activating it. Okay, do we have something? Oh, it looks like
I mean, why not?
Going to go for the dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, why not? The dangerous is... Yeah, but that was something else, yeah.
I mean, after the Kelbeck came down, that didn't seem... He could have negated Edge, possibly, with the Mirror Sword Knight. Can it banish itself from the field? I think it can. Maybe he just got a bit carried away. I mean, not that it's super... It's just a 1 Destiny Hero monster, but maybe negating the Kelbeck would have been a smart idea. It is a bit of a shame. It would be a shame to give up the Mirror Sword Knight, even so, because it can be tributed on your opponent's turn.
So the Sword Knight only negates cards that your opponent controls.
Oh, really?
So
okay. So he can't do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, putting it into the graveyard means that we can't use it there. So
yep, and now the dangerous. Yeah.
Very fortunate from Vincenzo there, hitting that Kelbeck. Let's see what we can do. Not too much to play through, just that Chimera Fusion with any potential Bestials and hand traps we may have picked up on Filippo's side here.
Do you think he'll start the turn with the Mirror Sword Knight, Filippo, maybe? Or hold it? He doesn't look like he's activated it yet, so...
Activate it immediately just to get some
advantage. Well, I mean, because you want it in the graveyard, so you can you can negate either way if it's in the graveyard. So you might as well just put it in the graveyard. But it seems like he's waiting.
Ooh. Potentially doesn't want to turn on something like Thrust immediately, I guess. There's that Perla Rhino field spell, still at 3 copies, and gives you a decent amount of consistency in this deck. So happy to see Perla Rhino in his opening hand. Vincenzo, yeah, he's drawn pretty well.
For sure.
I mean, it was not only drawing the Kelbeck, but having one of 4 to discard it, unless he also has the Magic Agido in his hand.
we're going to get Sharon to the hand here, and Sharon just a really good card in tier limit with the ability to special itself, be a level 4, as well as discarding for effect. Filling up that grave, one of the best starters here, and if we can hit anything, we could go for an early Rhino pop, force out with Chimera Fusion potentially. Let's see what we're going to do. Yeah, so many options. You know, we've got the Mali in the graveyard. We can go for some sort of Beatrice play if we want to. Try and force your opponent's disruption out before you go into something like a Guido Kelbeck being sent with this Beatrice. Looks like that is what he's going to choose to do here.
It's so cool to see Beatrice. This deck to me is just like a, I mean, it's a fusion deck, but it feels like a fusion of all of the cool archetypes of Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest. We've even got Beatrice, which is, again, like one of my favorite cards, and probably one of yours as well.
She's okay.
She's okay, okay. She's not a proper Burning Abyss, huh?
So this again is why this is really amazing. The ability to send any card from your deck to the grave, right? Which is so many options and so many different possibilities that are open to you. You know, in terms of tech cards, we mentioned a little bit about his side deck, and again, there was like this big, powerful boss monster in Arise Heart. You know, keep talking about it, but it's so relevant because it was really preventing tier limit from doing anything for, you know, the better part of this year. And here we see what happens when you have access to the grave.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see all the different strategies that players come up with this weekend. Yeah, as you say, now that they've got sort of more room to breathe.
All right, he is going to go for the Mirror Sword Knight, as you mentioned. Beast King Gazelle is, or Baphomet rather, is going to pick up the Chimera Fusion from the deck here, and gives you some options to go for a Chimera Fusion into the Guardian.
He's not added a Gazelle, so that should tell Vincenzo that all of the Gazelles are present either in his graveyard or hand.
And he's thinking about flipping this Chimera Fusion. Yep, he does.
Yeah, so this is the thing with 2 level 6s on the field. You don't want to have your opponent go into that Beatrice as a quick play effect. You wouldn't be able to destroy it on summon. And it looks like we do want to go for that now and prevent our opponent from doing anything with Beatrice. And of course, very importantly, Chimera draws cards. So there's a chance that we can maybe pick up a Bestial off of this as well.
Do you think he's worried as well that, you know, Vincenzo might have a Dante Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss if he destroyed a Beatrice?
That would be sick.
You know, there's hardly any, you know, there's a lot of room in the tier limit's extra deck, I've always thought, you know.
Why not throw that in as well?
Why not chuck it in there?
Alright, it's always fun to see fusion monsters in the extra monster zone, right? No link monsters required in this strategy?
No. Is there any, there's no polymerizations in Filippo's deck, right? There's one for Vincenzo.
No. He's just playing the Goddess, but yeah, I think you were alluding to the bonus effect of Chimera, weren't you?
It is surprisingly annoying. Like, not being able to target a monster is often like, there's often ways to deal with monsters that you can't target, but when that monster has 3,300 attack and defense, it can be quite a challenge.
Yeah. No polymerizations here, so we've just got the Mirror Sword Knight as our last line of defense after we destroy here with the Chimera. So we've used 2 from the field. We're not going to draw 2, we're going to only draw 1 here. Yep. So it doesn't look like we're picking up a Bestial, unfortunately.
So are we thinking the dangerous and the malicious, or the dangerous and the field spell?
I think the both monsters are better, yeah. Let's see. We did know about this sharing. Okay, so he's getting to actually send 5 cards off the. Oh wow!
Sorry, did you say 5?
I said 5. I said 5.
Did you mean 10?
We got Guido.
Oh,
Trivikarma as well.
His deck.
And the Swamps.
Oh, but actually the rest of
names,
it, yeah,
though.
the rest of it might be a little underwhelming, to be fair. Especially because he has already activated the Perle Rhino.
Trivikarma can also add Saliek in a pinch.
Yeah.
Anything that mentions Visa Starfrost, which I think is just Saliek and Perle Rhino in this deck.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing much of any other thing.
Yep. Vanadium field spell, maybe. Is that allowed?
Tier limit Scream. Let's have a look. Does Scream mention Visa Starfrost? It does indeed.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, he knows more than us.
Yeah.
That's good, because he's the one playing the deck for the event, so.
All right.
So he might have another chance actually at milling 3 more, I guess. For now, though, he's gonna shuffle back his Kelbeck, so he wants to again go for 5 more.
He is truly like, you know, he's really giving the feature match a good show.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so important to mention that 30 minutes are almost down the line already, and this is quite important when we think about, you know, picking up and avoiding, you know, getting into a draw. You really don't want to start things off with a draw in round 1. So,
honestly, I've been so engrossed in this match.
Yeah.
If you asked me how long it had taken, I would not have said 30 minutes.
I was gonna say, like, it feels like
same.
time flies when you're having fun.
When you're watching Tielemans, for sure. There can be a deck, like some deck, there is some benefit to winning. Like, it's fun to do big combos, but if you have to do it over and over again, and one of the things players loved about Tielemans is kind of different every time because it depends the order you mill things and so on. But it's nice sometimes to have a deck where you can just kind of go through the motions and get that win without having to, you know, think too hard and in a reasonable amount of time over the course of a large event.
This was a very nice play by Vincenzo, essentially shuffling back one of his tiers so he can trigger his Perle Rhino to destroy his on-field Shearing, and this way he can fusion summon now.
He's pulling out all the stops.
Yeah. Okay.
So the
Kaleido?
problem is that we have the negate on the field of the Mirror Sword, so Kaleido Heart can be negated. Now, I'm just gonna check if this
Kaleido Heart
sword
targets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can also negate it with...
But the thing is, it's buffed by the field spell, so you can just attack over the Guardian Chimera, right?
Mm-hmm. 35.
And then in Memphis 2, he activates the Scream. So still very well played by Vincenzo. And with one face down, if that's a Saliek, this could be a really good comeback.
Why didn't he activate the Saliek before Fusion Summoning? He would have got
the
some
Scream,
mills,
you
right?
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the Scream.
Yeah. Oh, well, the Scream was picked up as a search, right? So it was in chain, no?
Yeah, but he used the... he triggered the field spell to destroy his Sharon on the field. He could have done that after.
Yeah, potentially.
I don't know, maybe it was all part of a big chain link that I wasn't seeing, but I think he could have just activated the Scream first and milled a few more cards.
For sure.
All right, Filippo's still got a lot of cards in hand.
He's got a big hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes how Chimera works. You know, you generate so much advantage, all of the fusion materials replace themselves. So question is, do we have like a further push, though? That's going to be the issue here, especially into that one face down.
And he knows everything Vincenzo has. Oh, no.
The face down, I don't think
it's...
I mean, we could somewhat safely assume, but, yeah.
It's a guess. But yeah, it's either going to be something like that or impermanence.
Oh, no, he has like 7. Oh, wow. He also has a call by the grave.
I saw that as well.
Yeah.
The call by the grave on a Kaleido Heart is absolutely devastating.
That could be it, to be fair. If he forces it out, it's basically down to the Scream, whether it eats anything useful. Maybe that Kelbeck that he sent back, you know?
One of the things I found, actually, with the Chimera deck is you often have all these cards in your hand, and you think, what do I actually do with them?
Yeah.
You know, you've got all these... You can use them as fusion materials. I mean, what do? You make a Guardian Chimera, maybe. It doesn't feel like it does... a lot, even with this many cards. You think you have a big pile of cards, you should be able to do a lot of things.
Just setting one.
I think that might be a fusion material. He's not. Hopefully, he's not just setting.
Yeah, no, obviously setting 2 fuse, but yeah. Yep.
So presumably he's setting it because he wants to summon a Guardian Chimera.
Makes sense. Yep, gonna use all of the monsters he is holding to for that second Guardian Chimera of the match.
Yeah, all these materials will trigger, get some advantage in the process, as well as go for the Chimera, which is most likely going to force out that back row.
This time around, it's the opposite one, so he wants to draw 2 and pop 1. Let's see. And yeah, it is the Saliek. But as you mentioned, Tom, that call by the grave on the Kaleido will be devastating. Does he get anything? He does not. Wow.
He hasn't hit any names, right, other than Tier Cash this turn. And with milling so many cards, that's actually Well, that's the nature of the deck. Sometimes you just are unfortunate.
Yeah, because this would actually be really strong if it wasn't for the call-by, but the call-by just completely shuts down Vincenzo, and you can see him smirking a little bit because this hurts so much.
But Saliak also being negated by the... Oh, is it? No, it wasn't being negated. That cornfield was being added.
No.
I have to check. The cornfield... How do you say the second name? Coatl? Coatl?
Coatl, yeah.
It only protects from targeting when you control the...
You have to control it. It doesn't have to be in... The fusion you can add it so long as you have one in your graveyard, but this you actually have to control it.
Call by the Grave being the MVP, it seems like Vincenzo has only one more draw to stay in this game 2. Can he pull this off? To be fair, I can think of a lot of really strong ones, but...
You have to keep in mind, he's only got 11 minutes, so if he starts milling more Kelbecks...
Let's see.
Yeah, the timer is getting a little bit uncomfortably low at this point, and Vincenzo has to maybe sort of decide, is it worth conceding this to go into game 3 with an upper advantage, or do you try and win this one out with not too much left on the clock?
I don't think he gets to decide is whether this top deck does anything or not, yeah. He doesn't have any other play at the moment, so I guess only the Malish he is not. Yeah, okay.
What's the plan?
He can't trigger the screen here, can he?
No, he can at least... No, he can't, because he doesn't have a tier, but he can trigger the Perle Rhino.
Oh, I see. You can trigger Perle Rhino.
And you pop your own...
Saliak? I can't see what... Yeah, you can pop your own
Saliak
and then you get tier cash.
Yeah, and then you just mill 6. It's a good plan.
It's a good plan. That's a plan.
Yeah.
Does
there has to be
have
something to
say
here
about the plan?
I don't think.
Does it look like it? We've just got the Chimera Fusion set, right, with Crossout.
Yeah, but Crossout doesn't do anything, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense to send back the Agido because your plan is just straight up milling 6. So.
Crossout's a strange card in this matchup, don't you think? Because you would really want it for like hand traps and disruption, and the idea is that you want to protect Branded Fusion, but if Branded Fusion isn't that important, then Crossout feels like it does not a lot against Tearlament.
Yeah.
I feel like if the Branded Fusion is resolved, the game would have ended like last turn quite comfortably, because there would have been, in addition to all of this, a Mirror Jade in play, which would have added another Branded Fusion and so on. So I feel like if he'd had the Crossout during his first turn to negate the Ash Blossom, I think it would have been quite a sharp game for Filippo.
Let's see.
Yeah,
it all comes down to this.
Payoff. Yeah, this is really important. As you mentioned, this mill here is the deciding factor for this turn.
But to be fair, 6 with that thin of a deck seems like it will be a very consistent mill.
All 3 are in the deck now, right?
You'd think so.
2, 3.
There's a Shirin, there's a Swamp.
And
early as well.
2 names.
2 fusions.
Okay.
That is really, really important. Now, of course, a lot of deck thinning was done here, but when you have Swamp on top of this as well, you're gonna have a lot of good options here. And we have to decide on Filippo's side, is it worth preemptively using this Chimera Fusion? But again, the Chimera Fusion, I mean, what can you really make here that hurts you?
Yeah, I don't know what's left in his extra deck. Maybe the Predaplant Dragos Tapelia doesn't feel like it does very much.
Yeah, just negating a monster is not super great when you've got the field control like this with the Perle Rhino. Although the Perle Rhino has been used this turn, admittedly, so that's not going to be an option.
But it's also nice that the Scream additional effect for the 500 it's huge.
Yeah, you'd think like that's just a nice little bonus effect, but technically there's a surplus of 1,000 attack on the field, right? Combined with Perle Rhino,
yep.
So you can really like control the field just by going to the battle phase.
Absolutely. Like as Tom mentioned, dealing with the 3300 is one thing, but dealing with the 2300 is a whole different story. So. But yeah, he's forced to actually use this Chimera Fusion, it seems, and not too impressive. Let's see.
Oh, is Chimera Fusion a beast? Is it a branded Chimera? Yeah, it must be.
You need a beast and a fiend, yeah.
So Guardian Chimera's a beast, I guess.
Oh, you only need one of them to be a beast or fiend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it works out.
Yeah, you need one beast and one fiend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Baphomet's a fiend, and the
Guardian is a beast.
Guardian must be a beast, yeah.
It is. Yeah.
It feels like you're downgrading a little bit, to be honest. The monsters got a lot smaller.
So you get the resource loop here, but the question is, are you going to have another turn?
Yeah, this is impressive stuff from Vincenzo.
Establishing the Rukalos as well as the Grapha, really, really powerful, but I don't think we have a card in hand, and I'm not sure if we can actually generate a card in hand. At some point, I suppose the Rukalos could maybe activate to send a Sulik on the future and then get a card that way for the Grapha. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves here as we go and summon out Kotal.
I mean, the Graph is also just huge, right?
It is massive, yeah.
And there we go. We move to the battle phase with that cross out face down. Doesn't seem like Filippo can do much. And now...
Oh, but...
Yeah,
something I mentioned a while ago, yeah, the illusion being unable to be destroyed by battle, incredibly useful here. I thought, yeah, in my head I was just kind of autopilot, you just attack, get in for a lot of damage.
Oh, but that's not a lot happening there, set pass.
I love this, it's just like the equivalent of old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you just set a
another field spell. Normal summon Rhino
deck.
Heart, send, mill 3. Yeah, Vincenzo is seeing blood in the water here. That is an incredible top deck.
Yeah.
And 3 copies still. It's crazy. Like, Pearl Rhino is just such an incredible card in this deck.
Yeah, this is huge. As you mentioned, the illusion really paying off, but now so much that Vincenzo can do.
There's a Hell Shaddoll fusion here, which I think mills 4.
How many different attributes are there? There's a
Dark,
wind,
water, so 3, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the Shaddoll monsters can act as a bit of a nuisance in your hand when you draw them, but oh boy, does it feel good to hit them in situations like this.
Do you think Filippo set another illusion monster?
Most likely, I guess. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's ahead by 2,800, so his plan was probably, you know, trying to get the win
I
that
love
way.
this plan, it's excellent.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm just going to wall up with Indestruct. You have to come up with a destruction effect each time.
Yeah.
He's got the King of, what's the full name? I want to say the King of the Phantom Beast. It's got more of a name than that.
Would you like me to address him by his title?
Give me his full name.
Chimera the Illusion Beast, and then Chimera the King of Phantom Beast.
King of Phantom Beast. Okay, so he can bring back another illusion monster. That's all I was. Oh, maybe it doesn't actually. Maybe it has to bring back a beast or a fiend. I think it'll probably get negated by a Rule Palace anyway.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there's Malicious and Havness being returned.
Vincenzo summoning like every fusion in his extra deck.
Yeah, he's gonna summon back the one he just shuffled the previous turn. So,
is this really the crossover we asked for? Heroes, Dart Worlds, tier.
Oh wow!
Oh, goes for the back row. Okay, interesting.
Want to play it as safe as possible, but now, yeah, he needs to find a way to deal with these illusions.
Yeah, does he have? What's a good way of dealing with them?
Good question. I'm looking at this extra deck here. There's like,
what links has he got?
I guess he's playing Dark, most likely.
He's got Dark. He's got Underworld Goddess.
Okay.
Nothing really strong to take out here. Baron would be really good, but we don't have tuner access.
I love the idea of using Underworld Goddess, this card that players have included
Liquid Illusion,
to get rid of the most difficult monsters.
Yeah.
And then you just say, oh yeah, but I also need it to get rid of my opponent's monster that can't be destroyed by battle.
Okay, genuinely, I'm looking through this, and I am struggling to see ways to attack through illusion monsters, especially when Vincenzo's on 5,200 life points here. He's behind, and there's like just over 5 minutes left.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, that is some panicked extra deck fanning there.
There are times you just think, wow, okay, look at my field. You have to concede, opponent. Like, this is my field. Like, what are you going to do? But no.
Yeah, he has.
Dragos Tapalia. Okay, that does do the trick, I think.
As long as that other set card isn't another illusion.
I think it is, you know. I think it's going to be another cornfield quart because you incidentally add.
Well, looks like he's going for a rank 4.
Okay.
Okay. Zeus.
This is desperate.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Yeah. Does he run Dragos Tapalia?
Should do.
Maybe he does not, actually.
Oh, wow, actually doesn't, yeah. Favoring the Mud Dragon, I suppose. Like, the extra deck is just so tight here.
Yeah.
I mean, the Underworld Goddess feels necessary because of Pearly. Abyss Dweller, really important, making turn 1 against Unchained. Diviner makes sense. Baron, sorry, makes sense with Diviner. Cross Sheep, I suppose, is maybe like greedy per se. Sprint is important because you can send Merle. So this is one of the issues with a pile like this. Like, you find that in situations, you could probably opt to play like 20 extra deck cards if you could.
And link away a Grapha. That's just, oh, that makes me upset.
As you might have noticed, we got 3 minutes of extra time. Actually, as a slow play warning has been issued. Actually, to both players, so we got 6 in total, which makes sense. But now, yeah.
Could Vincenzo not have used the Mud Dragon to make his monsters dark and keep the Grapha and link away something else for the Dark Charmer, maybe?
There's no shot. We're actually doing this.
Oh. Is he going to attack into a second one, though? I think it is. I don't know what else he'd say.
Yeah.
I can't handle the... It's another illusion monster!
Wow. He set another Mirror Sword Knight as well? I saw that. That's a Mirror Sword Knight.
Oh, no. All right, we're going to have to, like, just keep fusing and keep trying to pop with Pearl Rhino, it looks like. Oh, okay, Baron is huge here.
Yeah, that's
we just...
Has he still got the Kelbeck, right?
Yeah. He must do, yeah. He just needs to send a 4. Baron can pop one of them.
Yeah, even if you don't activate the milling effect, this is a huge top deck.
But we still can't...
But you still need to have a fairy to make it level 6, right? Yeah. But he's got one.
He does have it, yeah.
The top of Vincenzo's deck has been firmly on his team, like...
For sure. I feel like still last turn, he should have paid more attention to what was there and probably destroyed the other monsters with the Pearl Rhino, but now, yeah.
It's possibly a bit risky milling with Scream there, because if you hit Kelbeck...
Yeah, I agree with you.
Maybe you don't get to increase the level.
I don't know, I feel like with 6 minutes down, is probably trying to panic, not losing this one out when you know you have won the game, but you know you have these walls there which are stopping you.
You've not won the game till you've won the game.
I know. So
you wouldn't think in 2023 that monsters that just can't be destroyed by battle would be the difference.
I hope Vincenzo's not considering milling here, is he? No, he actually chooses not to use Kelbeck.
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay, here we go.
I thought he could make a fusion, but apparently he's out of fusions.
Okay, that's one, but there's another Mirror Sword Knight.
There is another one, yeah, of course.
We'll try again next turn. Okay, looks like we've ran out of illusion monsters from Filippo's side. There's that cross out we were talking about earlier. I just think it's so bad in this matchup.
And this was a great effort by Filippo, but unfortunately it seems like the game might be over. Let's see. Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's a skip there. Takes it just by the skin of his teeth.
Great job. Vincenzo wins. Wow, what an ending. Definitely something.
That was intense.
Yeah, we didn't see coming, but yeah, it was a great match for sure. In the end, it seemed like, just Vincenzo's strategy relying on these Kelbecks still after 1 year is paying off. And maybe that Chimera opening was not that strong in the end. I don't know.
You have to feel gutted when you're playing in the feature match and you discard your opponent's card. And it's during the end phase as well, so you can't react to the fact that your opponent just discarded a Kelbeck, mills, and fusion summons on your first turn. I mean, it is the classic tier element thing to do, but it's so much harder nowadays with all of those important pieces at 1 copy each.
I don't think it's a particularly great matchup for Chimera, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I'm completely convinced of tier limit. We'll have to see for the rest of the weekend here. It felt like there was a lot of things that were fortunate for Vincenzo to go right there, and even up until the end there was a potential doubt of even taking away the whole thing.
It did feel like every turn, by the end, he was drawing like a relevant card. I mean, I guess at times like that, you can feel bad as the opponent, but you have to think actually like most of his deck would have been helpful in that situation. But yeah, what do you think, Macha?
Yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting one. Vincenzo keeps what he bragged about yesterday, his 100% win rate on stream in Dortmund. So for now, that's fair enough. We'll see whether we'll see more of him in action throughout the weekend. But yeah, as you mentioned, Nadir, the deck seems very strong, but it seems like it asks you to take unnecessary risks. Sometimes I don't know if I could do it for 12 rounds, just relying on those mills. But I mean, to be fair, he did build his deck in a way where consistently should it, at least
you have to create your own luck in a way.
Fair enough, but at the end of the day, you still need to, get that. So I don't know. But yeah, regardless, it was a good show. Both tried their best, and obviously Filippo still has, 11 rounds ahead of him, so he will try to keep his composure.
You can't feel too bad about losing to the reigning champion.
No, absolutely not. Or maybe. Maybe
with those
maybe you
mills.
do.
I really enjoyed the very creative strategy at the end there to try and stick in the game, just by setting monsters that can't
That
be
was
done.
definitely an
That was
interesting
great.
one. But thank you guys for being with us. That was the end of round 1. But before we jump into round 2, we need to hear it from the winner, Vincenzo, and we have Ed interviewing him right now.
Thank you very much, Marcello. I am joined by Vincenzo Orofino, the previous YCS Dortmund winner and the winner of our round 1 feature match. Vince, how does it feel to be back?
It feels really good. I'm really happy with my deck choice. I know it's a really fun deck, so regardless of how the tournament is going to be, I'm gonna be happy for my decision. But the deck performed amazing this match. I still have to get used to the tournament again, but I think I have good chances, and for sure I'm gonna have fun.
That's what we like to hear. It's all about having fun at these tournaments. Winning is also a nice bonus. So speaking of your deck, obviously we saw you win with this at last year's one in November. And obviously on the Forbidden Limited list, Tier has been hit quite hard. There's a lot of one-offs now. So can you talk to us a bit about how you're managing with the new setup of the deck and how you're finding the consistency?
So the deck is significantly different compared to the one I played in Dortmund. If I'm not wrong, in Dortmund I didn't have tier elements Kashtira, which is an addition. Of course, it's a really different deck, but what I did is the card they banned were mostly good mill cards, like good cards to mill, like all the tiers, literally all the tiers and all the Ishizus. You can kind of fix that by putting a lot of other engine that are good to mill, like you saw the Destiny Heroes or the Shadows and those stuff. The only real big difference, and this is going to be a bit controversial because I think my deck now is really, really strong. I think the only really big difference compared to the Dortmund one is that I don't have that much room for non-engine. That's because if we talk about the engine, I think not on the same level, it has less follow-up, but it's not that much of a difference in my opinion.
But you're having fun with it as well still.
For sure, I always did, even with everything at 3, but with the cards at 1, it also feels even better when you mill the Kelbeck or the Guido, because you know they're one-offs. Yeah, the only really big disadvantage of my deck compared to Dortmund is the non-engine, because in Dortmund I had room for 12, and here I have room for 3.
Does make a difference. Also, talking of decks, obviously you were just against the Chimera branded deck. Chimera obviously very new with Duelist Nexus. So were you pretty prepared on how to deal with that? Were you expecting to go up against it? And how did you find going up against it?
Oh, I was super fine playing against Chimera because my 2 roommates for this event, they both play Chimera. So I spent the last 2 days playing against it. And in general, I think it's a pretty favorable matchup for Tier. Every matchup is a pretty favorable matchup for Tier. And the Keld and Mudora really go in. They perform really well. And Rulkel also really strong interaction. In general, if they don't open full combo plus a backup like Trolllock or Ash, I should win even going second, and yeah, it happened. So
going through most of that game, you managed to use Kaleido Heart immediately to get rid of the King of Phantom Beasts, so already pretty much controlled what was going on there. Also, Filippo was under Prosperity, so there wasn't a lot that he could do there. So you did a lot, you prevented the Brand of Fusion, so game 1 was pretty controlled for you.
I think the Prosperity really cut him off of resources, because at one point I didn't have much when he called by the grave my Kaleido, but I think he finished the X-Tech or something, because he had every piece of engine he needed, but couldn't do anything besides setting monsters.
And then game 2, it was a bit more of a back and forth. You managed to Ash the Brand of Fusion, but you typically see with a Chimera, that's a bit of a bait so that they can get into the Chimera Fusion stuff. We saw a lot of that come out. The Mirror Sword Knight, that's pretty much a 1-card combo, so they got through all that. And then you did a pretty good job getting quite lucky with a lot of the things that got hit.
My deck is built to get lucky, you know, so... But regarding the Ash, I saw game 1 because he milled it. He plays the Dragoon engine. So I have to Ash the Branded Fusion, because if I don't, he puts Dragoon and then he goes Mirror Sword Knight, I asked the Mirror's Word and he negates with Dragoon, and I just gave him a free Dragoon on the field. So I had to.
You knew what you were doing, mate. This ain't your first rodeo. Well, congratulations, Vincenzo. You've already won the first feature match. Is there anything with your current deck that you're nervous about going up against for the rest of the tournament, or are you feeling pretty confident?
My deck is only nervous about my deck.
Okay. That mirror match, always a bit of a nightmare. Well, I imagine you might face a few of them, but best of luck to you. Welcome back to your, crowning achievement area, and I hope the rest of the tournament goes great for you. Thank you very much for joining us.
That too. I hope that